put this result at the feet of Cameron Ciraldo. This is the key statistic. This is where the Rabbitohs won the game and the Bulldogs lost the game. That's now back-to-back losses for the Canterbury Bulldogs, and with Penrith around the corner, given what they just did to the Melbourne Storm, I think 3 in a row isn't a case of if, but when. So where do the Bulldogs go from here? Where did it all go so wrong? Frustrating point is they led at half-time, but there's a key metric here that I'm going to explain, and it's going to tell you a lot about why the Bulldogs are struggling, both in this game, so far this season, and as recent as halfway through last year. Stay with me, you're going to want to stay tuned for this. Who likes honest takes backed by data and a little bit of entertainment? If that's you, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 2,000 subscribers. We're a mere 20 subscribers away, so please help us reach that milestone. Thank you very much. Let's get back to the video. Alright, so the Bulldogs start really slow again. Connor Tracy throwing a beautiful pass straight into Alex Johnston's breadbasket, allowing the Rabbitohs legend to extend his record-breaking run in terms of tries scored after breaking the illustrious try-scoring record against the Sydney Roosters in round 2. But the Bulldogs bounce back. Montoya, with a little bit of luck, players running into each other, manages to score, and the Bulldogs equal things up at 6-all. Then the Bulldogs go behind with a Latrell Mitchell try. Connor Tracy out of position, Latrell Mitchell scoring a try after a drop ball and a penalty, allowing the Rabbitohs to march up the field. But the Bulldogs bounce back in true Bulldog fashion. First, it was Lachlan Galvin. Puts through a grubber, a little bit of luck, Satili bumps out Tallis Duncan, and Lachlan Galvin regathers his own grubber kick and scores a try. Well done, Lachlan Galvin. Salidi Tupanua says, I'm happy to audition for the number 9 shirt, pulls out at a dummy half after a line break from Tawala, scores the try. The Bulldogs go ahead. The Bulldogs go ahead at halftime against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Things were looking good. The attack, while not perfect, was finding a level of cohesion. The Bulldogs did definitely find a cadence in terms of their performance, the speed in which they wanted to play, and how they wanted to move the ball around. Then the second half starts. This is where the Bulldogs lost the game. About 5 minutes into the second half, Captain Stephen Crichton goes down injured. He's holding his shoulder. We know that Stephen Crichton does have some nerve issues there. We don't know whether it's an AC joint injury. We don't know whether it's a nerve injury. But Crichton goes down. He leaves the field. So, Bronson Xerri is on the bench. Left centre, replacing a left centre. Or so you would think. No, Cameron Ciraldo had something else in mind. He's going to bring on Sean O'Sullivan. He's going to move Matt Burton to centre, and then that would be the Bulldogs' halves for the rest of the game. Sean O'Sullivan, Lachlan Galvin, Matt Burton shifted out. This is where Cameron Ciraldo lost the game for the Bulldogs. And yes, I do put this result at the feet of Cameron Ciraldo. Stephen Crichton goes down with an injury early on into the second half. Instead of bringing on Bronson Xerri, who has played left centre for the Bulldogs for the last 2 years, who has played outside Matt Burton for the best part of 2 years, instead of bringing him on, you move Matt Burton to left centre. You bring Sean O'Sullivan over to the left-hand side when he played right-hand side last week. So you're putting a new defensive pairing together, and then you say, all right, go out there and finish the game. Less than 5 minutes later, Duncan Tallis scores for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, going through Sean O'Sullivan and Matt Burton. That's just poor coaching. It's poor decision-making from a coach who has been really good for the Bulldogs, who has led the Bulldogs to a lot of success over the last 2 years. But these are poor choices by Cameron Ciraldo. You can't ignore that. For the Bulldogs fans or the naysayers who are saying, oh, well, a lot of Bulldogs fans demanded that Sean O'Sullivan start in the halves with Lachlan Galvin. Yeah, that's right, we did. At the start of the game, you can't ask a halfback to manage a game with 35 minutes left to go. A halfback needs to get a feel for the game. They need to understand the cadence of the game, how their team are going at any given point. Is the team tired? Do I need to speed things up? Do I need to slow things down? You put Sean O'Sullivan in a really difficult position. And the other thing is, he's changing another combination once again. Sean O'Sullivan, when he came on last week, played on the right-hand side, but then when he came on this week, he played on the left-hand side. So Cameron Ciraldo's decision upset the balance of the Bulldogs. And then after that, it was just error after error after error. Jacob Kiraz, drop ball. Tawala, drop ball. Montoya, drop ball. all in our own 30-metre area. Stephen Crichton dropped the ball in the first half as well. 13 errors to the Bulldogs, 61% completion rate. You cannot win games of rugby league with a 61% completion rate. I don't care who you are. If you're the Penrith Panthers and you have a completion rate of 61%, I guarantee you're going to lose. So if you're the Bulldogs, who is nowhere near as good as the Penrith Panthers, then guess what? You're absolutely going to lose. Connor Tracy needs to get called out here. I've been giving Connor Tracy a lot of praise, but I think that was his worst performance in a Bulldog shirt. 3 errors, one leading directly to a try. He dropped a ball that he's meant to clean up after a grubber. He misses it. It's a try to the South Sydney Rabbitohs for Latrell Mitchell. He then was out of position for 2 grubber kicks. Latrell Mitchell in the first half, Cameron Murray. Both of those 2 players scoring off grubber kicks. Connor Tracy rushing because he wasn't behind the defensive line. And he threw the intercept pass to Alex Johnston. A really bad game for the Bulldogs custodian. The forward pack is also a major problem for the Bulldogs. They're just lacking punch. So this is where the stats don't necessarily tell the full story. The Bulldogs made more meters than the South Sydney Rabbitohs. The Bulldogs made more post-contact meters than the South Sydney Rabbitohs. The Bulldogs had a higher tackle efficacy against the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and the Bulldogs also had a quicker play the ball average speed than the South Sydney Rabbitohs. So, however, this is the key statistic. This is where the Rabbitohs won the game and the Bulldogs lost the game. First of all, let's give a lot of credit to Tallis Duncan for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. He had 3 line breaks against the Bulldogs. He tore that left edge and you won. He scored a try. He ran for over 135 metres. Second rower, a really dominant performance. Well done to Tallis Duncan. Latrell Mitchell, 2 tries. Credit where it's due. Whether you like Latrell or you don't like Latrell, the guy stands up on the big stage, he scores tries. Well done to Latrell Mitchell. Here is where the Bulldogs are embarrassed by the South Sydney Rabbitohs though. Don't worry about the scoreline, it's 4-0. That's the number that you need to be worried about if you're a Bulldogs fan. What 4-0? Let me explain. Jai Gray, 1 try assist. Cody Walker, 2 try assists. Jamie Humphries, 1 try assist. Fullback, the 5'8" and the halfback, registered 4 try assists between them. Let's go through the Bulldogs spine. Connor Tracy, 0 try assists. Matt Burton, 0 try assists. Lachlan Galvin, 0 try assists. And that is exactly why the Bulldogs struggle to score points and will continue to lose games. Because while they scored points in this game, a lot of the tries were down to sheer luck. Satili Tupouniua busted his way over from dummy half as the biggest number 9 I've ever seen. Marcelo Montoya would have gone over the sideline 9 times out of 10 in how he received the ball from Tuala to open the Bulldogs scoring sheet. Lachlan Galvin put through a grubber, which a few things went his way and he managed to collect his own kick. The Bulldogs' tries were down to luck, whereas the Rabbitohs' tries were down to execution. That is the key difference. So what changes can Cameron Ciraldo make now? What do you do staring down the barrel at 3 losses in a row? You got injury clouds over Stephen Crichton and Matt Burton, who was limping around for the final 10 minutes of the game. What do you do against the Penrith Panthers? I'm going to tell you these key changes that Ciraldo needs to make today. Just when he wakes up on Saturday morning, he needs to say, I'm making these changes for the Penrith Panthers. Move Lachlan Galvin to 6, but crucially move Lachlan Galvin over to the left-hand side. That's where he played for the West Tigers. That's where he performed in a way that convinced the Bulldogs that they need to give this guy an $850,000 salary. So put him in a position where he can thrive. Allow Lachlan Galvin to play on instinct, allow him to play on the side of the field that he prefers, and give him a license to roam, but crucially take the pressure and the number 7 off of his back. To support Lachlan Galvin, Sean O'Sullivan to the right-hand side as the number 7, as the general organiser and the key playmaker for the Bulldogs. Let Sean O'Sullivan tell this team and lead this team around the park, get the attack structured, tell players where they need to go, straighten up the attack, get the repeat sets, and get the ball to the creative players when the timing is right. Bronson Xerri needs to come back at left centre. Stephen Crichton and Jacob Kiraz need to be moved to the right. Can't do another week of this dance. The changes need to happen now. For Cameron Ciraldo, I think this is going to be a big pressure point for him. He has had a very successful 2 years at the Bulldogs. He's starting to become synonymous with overcomplicating what should be really simple. Cameron Ciraldo's decision today, so Cameron Ciraldo is the one who can correct path for the Bulldogs for the rest of the 2026 season. There's no suggestion here from me that Cameron Ciraldo is a bad coach. There's no suggestion that Cameron Ciraldo should lose his job. Nothing like that at all. I think Cameron Ciraldo is a brilliant coach, but he's also a young coach, and he's not free from criticism, and he's not immune to making mistakes. He is human, and he is learning after all. But he needs to correct the course of our season, because if we continue doing what we're doing, don't worry about top 4. The Bulldogs might struggle to qualify for the top 8. And there you have it. There's my review. Look for me at your next NRL game, because I will be talking to the fans, because I think fan voice matters. It is critical that fan opinion gets a platform where their opinions can be heard. And that's what I aim to do through this channel. I want to meet more people who are passionate about rugby league like I am, and I want to get your opinions, and I want to share that through my platform. Enjoy your Easter weekend and get out of here.